Welcome to the AMP Lab, where we're going to demonstrate how we are digitizing our analog tapes using a MixPre 6 and Audacity from our Akai machine. And one of the most important things with working with audio will always be signal flow. And so the very first thing we're going to start with is I'm going to show you how we are getting from here to here to here. And so we are using RCA cables to XLR, and it's male to male. So RCA, and so you want to be coming out of here into our number 1 and number 2 inputs on our USB audio interface, which is what's going to be actually digitizing the analog and then bringing it into our digital audio workstation. And the thing we want to keep in mind as well is what levels are we bringing it in at, and it's line level. And the difference between line level and mic level is about 10 decibels. Line level is about a 10 decibel pad. And so we want to be sure if when you bring your audio in and you're like, oh, it's really loud, you want to check and see, okay, is it at line level or mic level? And so the first thing we did was we checked, and we just press the number 1 input, and then we go and we were able to see that indeed it is at line level, which is what we want. And from there, we want to check a couple things. We want to make sure that the frequency, the sample rate, as well as the bit depth are the same on the USB audio interface as they are on the digital audio workstation. In this case, it's 96,000 kilohertz and 24-bit. And so we're at 9624 I see on here, and then we're also at 96, which in the bottom left-hand corner in Audacity, you could see that, and you could actually change it there. You could also go up to preferences, and you can see that we're at 24-bit, 96 kilohertz, and that's great. And you could also see that we're using the MixPre 6, and it's coming in and going out using the MixPre 6, and so that's all good. So all of those settings are correct, and we have the signal flow correct. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to start recording on our digital audio workstation. I'm going to hit record, and then I'm going to hit record on our USB audio interface. Not all interfaces will have recorders attached to them, but ours does, which is great because it's a backup. If something goes down with our audio interface, it is going still to here, which is always good to have a backup if you can. And so hit forward on our Akai.
An individual, Rick Byrne,
and there we hear the unmistakable voice of Warren Tallman. And we want to check, the very first thing we want to check is the level it's coming in at. And we want to be between minus 12 and minus 6 dB. And so I'm checking here, we're coming in. You could hear Warren's like walking around the microphone. We can hear the ambience of the space it was recorded in, which is all of that we want to capture just as it was recorded. And it looks as though we're doing that really well right now. Might turn this up a little bit, as long as we're not going too much bobbing up past minus 6. But if we are, thankfully, our particular USB interface here has a hardware limiter, which will basically not allow it to clip, and so when it does bring it into here, it's not clipping. And you could see on here, it's going into yellow.
Joanne and George just get together.
There you go.
Now, the vagueness.
But that's how our process here is working, and of course we're always ensuring that we're naming things so there's a consistency with that. But right now, in terms of our digitization process from reel to reel, again, I'll just reiterate, signal flow, so we want to look at where it's coming from, where it's going, and we want to look at the different gain stages when it's arriving into the USB and then when it's arriving into the digital audio workstation. And we also want to check sample rate and bit depth, and to make sure that
Actually,
you're at the same sample rate and bit depth on both the USB interface and the audio workstation. And we could stop it now, and then once we do stop it, we'll stop it here, and we'll stop it here. And then our process basically of exporting is as follows. We just go export, and we always export as a wave, because in digital audio, wave files are the least compressed, and so we don't want to change or compress our audio files at all. And we basically will export it just as we imported it at 9624, and it'll be a wave file, and that's what we'll do, and we'll just export it like this, and it comes up. It does give us the option with Audacity to put some further metadata like artist, track, and things like that, year, which we will be doing. But that's the sort of general process we go through to digitize analog tape.